Wait, there was supposed to be something by the end of the week that was going to blow our socks off? It's the end of the week. I'm checking the Discord right now. What the?
Q1 next year is the plan. Later on in Q1, though, probably around March when we're going to start.
Wait. Oh my god. This is the wrong video. I'm watching the wrong video. Hello and welcome. My name is Vex, and this is another Godforge video. We've got two things to get into today. The video might go for quite a while. I'm going to skip the sponsored portion. We're going to get straight into it. We've got a regular video, and then we've got a sort of question and answer back and forth of the latest podcast. So down in the description, I'm going to have chapters in case you want to skip around. But turn on your 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed if this video is over 40 minutes. Good luck. Let's see what's up.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. So we are in February, which means that one of the founders, Sham, is on his way to Vegas right now for DICE, which is an event where basically a lot of the gaming leaders go to. I was close to going on, like, I really want to go back to Vegas, but we got so much going on that we couldn't really spare the whole founder team for that one. But we are closing our investment round this month, which means that a new build has been developed, and Sham is using that to sort of talk through the build, where it's at so far with that group. And what I wanted to do today was actually just show you how the build kind of has come along over the last few weeks, because there are a lot of changes. Also to show you some of the cool tools that the team have been making to make a lot of this stuff possible. So
okay, so everybody watching currently, I know the video just started, but I just spent the last like 15 minutes watching the wrong video. So I feel like everything that I talked about is just like, it's just gone. I feel so defeated.
I'm just in the roster screen here.
Anyway, we got new stuff. We got new stuff.
Show you a couple of the kind of like
Oh, is
heroes
this
now that have been
make sure the quality's okay. Okay.
added in, and you know, start to get a feel for the way our camera flows, stuff like that. Like, you're probably thinking this is just so easy to do. It's actually not. Like, having a nice sort of weight to the camera, the feel of the camera, the amount of zoom you can do to get, you know, real kind of like close up of your toys, your heroes. All of this takes time and effort to get it feeling good. Okay, I'll show you the Nubian warrior here with his bow. Yeah, and all of this is still work in progress. We're still like trying to iron out kinks and stuff. I'm going to show you one of the funniest, almost disgusting.
I'm kind of hoping that the backgrounds change.
Bugs I think I've seen so far.
I mean that in like the best way, because they've been there for a long time, and I'm hoping that that's just like a white box thing.
In a second, actually, which let's show you a couple more. This is Dagonet here now.
Oh, we talked about him. That's this is confirmed. He's single, because Godforge is a dating sim.
Looking pretty sweet. Look at that. Actually looks really cool. One of the tools I'm going to show you is like how we get in good motion in cloth and making sure that we're not getting a ton of clipping. Still a bit of clipping, but it's really like low compared to what you might see in other games. Lady Zoc here looking very...
World of Warcraft still has clipping. Like come on. Get with the times, Blizzard.
Sweet. Ready with her baton to take people down. Guan Yu loves his beard. One of the tools I'm going to show you is gonna...
I love that idle stance. What the heck? He's just loving his beard.
Not all of the backgrounds and stuff are correct, by the way, at the moment, but we're getting heroes into build so we can just kind of like see how they feel and look. So let's show you a couple of new ones that perhaps you haven't seen. Cyrus here in build, looking pretty damn cool. The Green Knight's in. Probably needs to straighten himself up a little bit. He's gonna have back problems standing like that, but
I really want to see the Green Knights, like, not concept art. Right? Concept art would be fun, but his like mood board. Every time I see him, I think he's like a Fable character.
These are all things that we need to iron out. But the detail in this dude, this is like one of the best heroes, honestly, for me, in terms of like modeling and stuff. Just super cool. sword there looking great as well. Shamash, look at the detail on this guy. Like,
Same stance.
Damn, looking sweet.
Who's that? Blank. Level 1.
Flowing red cloth. Look at that. And again, like, part of the tool I'm going to show you is how we get the cloth animating in the way it is. So slick. Again, probably sounding a little bit stumpy, but those things we're going to iron out. Here's his idle breaker going off. Then he gives it the old, like, cross arm. I'm ready. Very cool. Very cool. So we're definitely getting some stuff done, right? And there's more work to be done, polish, all that type of stuff. But this is the one I've actually, we've just got the asset done for the portrait. But this is probably the worst bug I've seen so far for, like, made me actually feel a bit sick. The Sphinx is in.
Oh my god.
But
look at the eyes.
Her eyeballs are outside of her head. So damn,
That's
we
funny.
need to fix that. But
That's pretty cool. See, yeah, the Sphinx is going to be a playable
very cool
character.
visual, but yeah,
Really interesting.
damn, those
The eyeballs did.
eyeballs are meant to be inside her face, and that would just polish off the aesthetic. Anyway, let's show
pretty
you
good.
a couple of.
Oh, okay. So this says pre-alpha build. We had taken a look at on last week's Friday leak that was actually uploaded on Monday. But we stream these live. In case you didn't know, we stream these live most times on Fridays, and we saw a couple different iterations of what the home screen could be. This was one of them. This didn't look like the final one, which is interesting because the other one was at about the same angle, but it wasn't so square. It was a little bit more dynamic. Like, I don't know. I've spent a good amount of time as a D&D DM constructing towns and villages and things like that, and like sort of researching how will these things come up. And this square, like a market surrounded by this mist and strangely oriented peaks, just doesn't feel right for this setting. And that was one of the concept arts, but it was only a concept art. The other one looked a little bit more dynamic. Things were a little bit zoomed in. You felt closer to the action, closer to the inside of this fortress where there was a forge and this well of the divine and whatnot. So this could just be, like I said in that video, it could just be one of many different versions of the main screen that you get to pick.
Things here, so
And it's interesting they've gone with the button in the middle is where you get to all like the juicy stuff. You've got your dungeon runs for, artifacts and weapons and stuff. Campaign, obviously we've seen the campaign quite a bit. Bosses for maybe like clan bosses? What's the difference between bosses and dungeons? Maybe dungeons are specifically just waves of enemies and don't have, at the end of those waves, a boss. I don't know. And then arena for PvP, and there's this thing underneath here that says the tower. I think this is going to be like faction wars. It's very common in games like these to have towers that are specific to a faction or a color. Like you can only use green affinity characters in this tower. And you try to climb it all the way to the top. Like Doom Tower, I guess, in Raid Shadow Legends. Except it's like always restricted. But I kind of like this big button in the middle. It's like, boom, you get right into the battle from there. There's a quest here. Clan Hall. I think in a podcast, Simon was like, hey, we don't know if we want to call it clans or guilds. Obviously, the Godforge is where we summon characters. Market is a rotating market. Explorations, I'm not sure. This could be like mission boards, or it's I don't know, expeditions, I guess, in certain gacha games. It'll be like send off these 3 characters for 8 hours and come back and you'll get level up materials, or you'll get materials that help you ascend characters. And it's just like a passive thing. You come back, every 8 or 12 hours, you hit the red dot and send it off again. Forge of Wayland. We saw that in the other concept art. That was like it looked like an actual forge, and that's probably where you craft artifacts and stuff, like gear. I don't know what Well of the Divine is. This could be their version of souls, like red stars in Raid Shadow Legends. So like a way to increase your character power after you've ascended them completely. I think that's it.
See, the UI is starting to come to life. Still placeholder stuff, but it's feeling kind of closer to where we would want it to be. I know some of the other content creators for Godforge, they were sent some assets of, the direction we're going with the Sanctum area and that type of stuff.
Okay. So the Sanctum is your home screen. And it seems like what we just saw was definitely not the direction that they're going. And what we saw last Friday is the direction they're going. And if you want to see that, go check out my previous video.
So definitely go and check out some of the other content creators. I've seen videos from Adhocs, from Ragewood, from Adventures of Adam. I think Mad Kappa did one. Certainly Vex did one. So there's a whole bunch of videos out there like talking about this stuff. So yeah, we've got
wait.
From Adventures of Adam.
Okay, Adventures of Adam is capitalized somehow. It's just like, YouTube generated the CCs, right?
I think Mad Kappa did one.
Kappa.
Certainly Vex did one. So
Vex.
There's a whole bunch of videos out there like talking about this stuff. So yeah, we've got our campaign mapping. Again, a lot of this stuff is placeholder, but gives you a feel of what we're doing. And I don't know if Shamash will even work in battle right now, actually. But you can see, like, the game is actually feeling like a game at this point.
Wait, he entered with 3 characters and only one showed up.
Very, very cool. So
wait. What is that? Passive. U for ultimate. B for... Oh. They might just not have, like, images for this. So this is a placeholder, I guess? Or it's specific for this build because... I think also in the most recent podcast, Simon talked about people playing the demo not knowing that they had an ultimate. So this could be like their way of showing people who are investors, who don't play the games very much, who are like muggles. Like, hey, you have the ultimate, use the ultimate.
So yeah, Sham's out there in DICE. He's showing off the build. He's got it on his phone, and it looks super sweet on a phone. But let's show you how we're getting some of this stuff working, some of the tools that have been developed to get to this sort of point. So I'm going to start off with the cloth tool that's been developed by one of our animators. Honestly, like, a lot of these guys are industry vets, and the team in the animation and the kind of like tech art team, they're like, this tool that's been developed is absolutely nuts. So first, what we're going to show you is this is how the different cloths animate originally before the tool was really working. And you can see where her legs are like clipping through her skirt. You've got the cape. Basically, he's put everything that could be cloth on someone here. The cape's just like going into them, and
the
they'll
hair
be just
too,
like clipping all over the place for your heroes. So what he's done here, you can see we've got all of these different kind of like loops of manipulation, I guess, of the different cloth forms, and he's able to utilize the tool that he's built with these kind of rings to reposition the hoops as we go through different kind of like stances, different movements.
Well, it's like every frame.
It actually gives the animators a ton of freedom, of quality control, I guess. So you see that, it's just kind of like pulling out the shape slightly. It's quite subtle. The initial setup of it takes a decent amount of time. But then once you've got yourself the configurations that you want, actually we get like the smoothness of visual. So again, you can see like clipping piece of leg coming through there, some of the thigh coming out the top. It's just like, right, which pieces do I need to adjust? for that movement, pulls them up, and gets us to a point where he's done it for all of the different elements here. I'll go towards the end.
They missed
Same
one.
animation that we saw at the start, but now we've got fluid cloth movement that isn't going through the body all over the place.
Yeah, it looks a lot better.
Absolutely brilliant tool.
It gives like
I don't know if
weight.
you can appreciate how good it is just by seeing, because maybe my like voiceover is not good.
Yeah, like this type of thing is like, I don't know, it's just really important to sell your game, right? To make things feel believable, especially when it's during an attack.
But it's a brilliant tool. What's awesome here is Nico from our 3D art team. He's produced this tool to support all of our artists, and he's going to talk you through the work that he's been putting in over the last couple of weeks to really give us that body type diversity. This one's awesome. Enjoy.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Bit of a jump scare.
Pretty character artist at Fateless Games, and today
Fateless.
I'm gonna be showing you what we've been working on for the past week and a half. So up until now, our 2D and 3D character artists have been working with what is essentially a single body type for both our male and female base meshes. So what we want to do now is have a wider variety of body types to work from for our characters. To do that, we're going to be using something called blend shapes. Now, before showing you what these blend shapes do for our characters, I thought it was a cool idea to show you the principle behind these blend shapes. So here we are in Maya.
So I'm gonna derail for a little bit. I made a joke about this in the content creator Discord. I saw when I watched this, I pre-watched this video like a couple days ago. When I saw this UI, I had flashbacks. Like I went to college for game art. And you know, at the time, and apparently still, it was very prevalent that in the industry you would use Maya. Maya is you know, Blender, but not free, and just like a bit more powerful. Now Blender is just like, you know, why would you pay for Maya when Blender exists? Like Blender's so good now, but at the time it really wasn't. And it's really like the couple classes I had using Maya, and it was like all the way from, you know, here's how you model a character off of a reference photo. Here's how you set up a scene and model a scene. It's really where I found out that, you know, I really like art, and I really want to work in art and do artsy things, and game art still intrigues me, but not 3D modeling. I am not a 3D modeler. It's like some people can move through like a 2D but 3D space effectively and really use faces and vertices to their advantage. And I just always got turned around, and like nothing ever worked the way I wanted it to. And it always looked like too much like Play-Doh, and I couldn't really get textures down, and it's just not for me. So I can appreciate their artists for being very good at what they do.
And as you can see, we have 3 seemingly different objects in our scene. Now, these objects are actually very similar. They share the same amount of points, and each and every one of these points share the same ID. So what we're going to do now is tell the program, please interpolate between these 2 states of the same object. And the program knows how to do that because of the information that they're sharing. So what I can do now, what I've done in preparation to this small demo, is create these blend shape layers. So with blend shape layer A, I can tell the object to morph into the sphere, or tell the object to morph into the C shape. What's even cooler is that once you have all of these layers set up, you can actually mix them, combine them, play around with them. So now you can see that I'm getting a result, a combination of both layers.
Banana.
Now this is the exact same principle that we're going to be using for our characters. So now with that knowledge, we can take a look at our
Looks
character
like a
base mesh template project.
looks like a
And
guy from like
here's
Lethal Company.
the base mesh that we've been using so far for all of the large male characters in our game. And to the right, you see a blend shapes window containing the blend shapes for the female and the male base meshes, both the standard version and the large version. We're going to be taking a look at the male large version now. So let's focus on this specific base mesh, which is our male large base mesh. And let's play around with its blend shapes. So let me minimize all of the other blend shapes so that we can clearly see what we're going to be working with. And as you can see here, one of the layers is already being used. This is our muscle layer. The layers range from thin to large.
So we know that Fateless is already in plans for working on a game that is not Godforge. And from Godforge, they seem to be doing a lot of templating, including this. So I'm wondering if in the future there is going to be a game where they have a character creator in the game. So some kind of game where you create your own character.
So
Because this is a very fundamental, like, building blocks type of thing for that.
So let's say that we want a thinner guy with some muscle mass. So we're already
God, his
using
head.
muscle slider. Maybe we don't want that much muscle. Something like this. Maybe we want a larger guy with some muscle definition there. So as you can see, these blend shapes really allow us to quickly play around with the body types that we want for our game, while sticking to the constraints of our existing rigs, which is amazing. What is also really cool to see is that the
Again.
exact same principle that I showed you at the very beginning is what is driving all of these layers. So each and every single one of these points is simply being translated to another location in the X, Y, and Z planes based on the information that another mesh with the exact same topology is providing. So let me show you here. If I turn on layer C and I go to my outliner, I can actually show you
The distance
what the
between
program is doing.
the distance between the vertices is disrespectful, honestly, to this guy. Like, we don't need to see that. You could see them just grow.
It simply
Disrespect.
is interpolating between mesh A and B.
Okay,
Okay, so now we are in ZBrush, and this is where all of the blend shapes.
Yeah, I
are
never used
created,
ZBrush. Apparently it's very fun.
and it is also the program that we use to add all of the sculptural detail that you see on our models. This is the male large base mesh that you just saw, now with all of those details on top. And as you can see here to the right, we have the exact same layers that you saw in Maya, and that we can play around, turn on, dial up or down.
Oh,
But now with all of that detail on top. What is also really cool
The
is
Hulk.
that these blend shapes, on top of speeding up the work of our 3D character art team, will serve as a base for our 2D concept art team to create a wider variety of body types for our characters in Godforge. I really hope you enjoyed taking a look
Whoa,
behind
is that
the
a boss?
scenes of our base mesh and
that's pretty good.
character body type creation process. Have a good one. Take care.
So that is going to do it for this week's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like following the Godforge journey.
Okay, as always, I leave the links to these videos down in the description in case you want to watch them all the way through, send them a view, and not listen to me talk. This is where we're going to change over to the podcast. So let's do that quick. Okay, so here's the latest podcast. We're not going to watch the whole thing. The whole thing is 43 minutes long, and even on 2x speed, I don't have that kind of time. So if you want to watch the whole thing, go for it. It's a interview with Mr. Sneaky, another content creator for Godforge. And they talk about beta things. So every question and topic here is revolving around beta and alpha and things like that. So I'm going to kind of skim through because I have some of my own thoughts to add to this. And if you want to hear them talk about it in length or listen to Mr. Sneaky's point of view, he has a lot to say about betas as well. Go watch the video.
Pre-releases, like we're going to be showing off our cinema. People call different parts of game development different things. So, you know, we're planning a beta where it's literally like, we want people to come in and test the systems we've built so far, you know, the kind of like core loop of player progression or hero progression, I guess. Some of the sort of dungeon mechanics to make sure they feel good. So for some people, that might even be an alpha. Probably is an alpha in today's kind of like terminology. I know, Dirk, you've got some strong views on this.
Yeah, I can feel Dirk starting to bubble up here.
I was just joking because there's always been like that kind of like seeing like an arms race and what they're calling your.
So I mean, honestly, I think at this point, anything that you do that's internal should be alpha. Everything that you do that involves outside people is beta. Like, it doesn't matter really what you call it, as long as you're not calling it early access. I really hate early access, especially now. There's been like WoW and Call of Duty and like I guess it's everything Activision owns, Activision Blizzard. They do like, oh, you can pay an extra like $10 to play the game a couple days early. Like, just stop. Like, I don't even know. I'm gonna look up quick. Is Fortnite still early access? Removed the early access label on June 29th, 2020. But they never officially released, right? They never had like a 1.0 patch. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I totally missed it. But Fortnite was in early access for actual ever. The classic one is 7 Days to Die. 7 Days to Die has been in alpha for 10 years or however long. Maybe it's not that long. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but it really doesn't matter what you call it. Beta is also typically you're getting testers from outside, so it's not your QA team, and you're not paying them. You don't pay the beta testers. You pay them with the experience of playing your game. That's really it.
Your testing phase.
We're trying to get an early monetization thing going here. It's literally like, we want people to play the game, and we're very lucky to have this huge community of people really excited about playtesting the game, right, and being involved. But there is definitely a disconnect between playtesting and release here, because I even see it in the Discord, perhaps people that are a bit newer into the fray, and they're like, when am I going to get to play this game? And, am I
sometime this
keeping
summer
all of my stuff from beta right the way through to launch? And honestly, that for our first phase, that is definitely not the vibe.
No, so like, I don't think I've ever played a game where you get to keep anything that you get in the beta. You might get things because you were in the beta. Hype for beta next year. Yeah, beta next year. Apparently beta's coming in May, and the game is meant to release in the summertime, so I don't know about that. Like I just recently, Non, you will appreciate this. I just recently reinstalled Heroes of the Storm, and I was, trolling around my account just to see what's up, and I have the closed alpha player profile picture because I played in the alpha test for Heroes of the Storm. I only played one game. Don't get mad at me. The queue time was like 10 minutes. It was crazy. So like you might get rewards and things like that, or like a special avatar, special like achievement or something like that. But I know Dragonair, I think it was Dragonair, a sort of hero collector gacha game in this genre, did a like beta right before the launch, and you got to keep the characters that you pulled, but not much else. Which was interesting. I know in Valorant, in the beta, they introduced the monetization bit, the microtransactions for guns and skins and stuff. But when they launched, they didn't let you keep the skins. You just got the equivalent of what you paid in, like, Valorant money, like in-game currency, so that you could buy new skins or buy the skins when they came back or something like that. The idea that you're getting into testing a game not to play and enjoy the game early, that's part of it, but you're testing the game. You are doing something for the developers in exchange for experiencing the game before the mass market. You are experiencing the game, you're testing the game, and you should be testing the game if you're playing in a beta. And you don't get to keep anything. That's not your account, right? Your account is what happens when the game goes live. If you get married to a character that you pull and you're like, oh no, my account's going to get wiped, like, that's your own fault. Because things in the beta are different than what they will be on launch. I'm thinking back to, like, the Honkai Star Rail beta. In like the first 10 pull, I pulled Jingyuan, who is like my favorite character in that game. And I was like, yes, I get to play through the beginning part of the story with this character. And then when the game launched, because my account got wiped, because that's what happens in betas, I didn't have that character until later. So my beginning experience with the game was different because I didn't get that character right away. So it's not something that you can bank on. I don't know if they have plans to let you keep things, but you shouldn't hope, or you could hope for it, but you shouldn't expect it. Okay, what a beta should be. Let's see.
You could clearly differentiate.
Do they ask a question?
Alpha were to what a beta were, because back in the day, like, an alpha was pretty closed off. Not many people had opportunities to obviously play in it, but the whole point of it was the game was at a very foundational level, and we knew there was going to be bugs. We knew there was going to be every glitch known to manning, but that alpha was the first kind of like brute force of addressing those things. And then,
so we talked about this a little bit in the Discord. I think that the things from various betas that I've experienced that are good are like constant, or not constant, but frequent in-game surveys. And they're just like maybe 4 or 5 pages long. They only take like a minute or two to do, but it's those, like, fill in the bubble if you strongly agree or strongly disagree or whatever. And they just ask you a couple questions like, I just hit my earphones. I didn't like that. I really liked the music in the last fight that I did, in the boss fight. Strongly agree, strongly disagree, whatever. Or questions like, I have a lot of experience playing games like this. I thought that the tutorial was too long and I just wanted a skip button, something like that. Like a couple questions, nothing crazy. Or like, what are some of these games that you've played before and have, like, genres of games, first person shooters, gacha games, whatever. And then for each one that somebody answers yes to, they get another question that's like, okay, well, which of those games did you play? Have you played Raid Shadow Legends? Have you played Dragonair? Have you played Arknights? Like any of these? And that's just like data gathering that could be useful for them after the first, second, third beta, however many. Second is quick bug reporting. World of Warcraft does this super well. If you've ever experienced a World of Warcraft beta, you'll know that bug reporting is super simple. You press the escape button to open the menu. There's a big button that says submit a bug. You hit that, and there's like categories that you can choose. Like, is it, player related, inventory related, enemy related, location related, something like that. You click that, you type in a quick description, and you hit the submit, and it's gone. And then there's like a quick, debug button that's like, unstuck or whatever. And that is, I think, just as important as the like non-buggy related player feedback. You need to have quick ways to submit bugs for the developers, right? But also so the players can get back into the game. And like I said before, if you're testing a game, if you're in the beta test, you should be reporting bugs and you should be trying to break the game. We're not, if we're beta testing, we're not doing like shitty QA stuff where we're like hitting the battle button 100 times to see if the game explodes, right? We're not doing that. But we're doing like, okay, can I manage to, move through a couple menus and, make my team have 7 people on it instead of 4 or whatever. Like that kind of bugs. Or like, as we're going through a fight, did this thing not work? Did we notice that we're not doing as much damage as we should? Stuff like that. I think too often people treat betas like, I don't know, like the full game. And it's just like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. Okay. We talked about that. When is the first beta playtest?
And Simon, just like the biggest comment we're gonna get on a video like this is like you had mentioned May. Is that gonna be the first time that players are gonna be able to play, or is that gonna be more of a private thing where it's like invite only?
It's a good question. Yeah, and actually, we're being fully transparent. We thought this was going to come more like April, and we had to go back to May just because of really actually it's more about assets, having enough environments fully completed, put in the game, having enough characters with like full animations and VFX, like all of those things are actually what take time, because it's almost like this domino effect. You need the heroes concepted to go into 3D, to get animated, to get VFX done, and then implementation and then polish.
Okay, so maybe I should let him finish talking.
And the polish piece takes quite a lot of time. But yeah, so May would be kind of like the first time we bring like the first cohort of beta testers in. We've got over 30,000 people signed up. Certainly the aim is to have as many of those that want to be involved, but probably not from the start. So we'll probably do a few thousand at a time, get them in, make sure that there's no obvious kind of like flaws in what we're doing, because it's also a first impression, right? It's also a first impression of the game, which is why we don't have that many people play testing right now, by the way, because clearly there's a ton of bugs and stuff. But yeah, it's a first impression, and we want to make sure that with every group that comes through, that first impression is even slicker. It's pretty much going to be the whole dev team just fixing bugs, improving experience, making sure that everything is as slick as possible for that kind of early experience. And then actually, so throughout the probably
I don't want to pause.
June, we'll have a ton of feedback. So we'll be collecting metrics around what areas of the game do people stop playing on, how long are people coming in and actually play testing for, are people coming back the next day to go again, all of these different things. So we start to test various metrics, which informs us where there's pain points or where the game doesn't feel good, honestly. And then that kind of like evolves. So hopefully
so
by
much
the
to
end
say.
of the beta test, basically anyone who signed up will have had a spot and played as much as they wanted to, or a decent amount, for us then to move on to kind of like that soft launch phase, which is coming more towards Q3, Q4 of the year, probably more like Q4, honestly.
What?
For us then to move on to kind of like that soft launch phase, which is coming more towards Q3, Q4 of the year, probably more like Q4, honestly.
Okay, this is, I think, the first time I've heard that the game is going to be pushed back into Q4 for a soft launch, which is an interesting way to phrase that. So maybe we're looking at like an actual release in January of next year. Yikes. I mean, yeah, it takes time to do all these things, obviously. So what I was going to say is, like, honestly, the first closed beta test where it isn't televised, it's not straight, you can't record it, you can't tell anybody about it, you can't do everything, should have been at the end of last year. And that was basing off of, I thought the game was going to release in summertime. I'm thinking back to like any of the number of betas I've been in, and the first beta test is always like confined. Like, I'll talk about the Zenless closed beta. So the first, there were 3 waves of closed beta tests for Zenless Zone Zero. The game came out in July of last year. The first beta test that I participated in, closed beta test 1, was in 2022. And it was literally just like the first half of the first chapter of the story. There was no gacha. You had all the characters, but you could experience the battles. You could walk around the city, but there wasn't so many NPCs. And it only lasted, I think, 2 weeks. And then the next closed beta test 2 wasn't until a full year later. And closed beta test 2 was all of chapter 1. I don't think they included the gacha yet. I think you still had access to all characters. I can't remember exactly. And it had more systems in it. Closed beta test 3 happened about 2 months before launch last year. And that was, I think, the first 2 chapters. It had the gacha rolling. It had a bunch of systems. It had, it still didn't have like the proper NPCs, but it had a lot of the main mechanics. And you could see the evolution of the game through the closed betas, but you could also see what stayed the same. And the biggest thing about that is that there was so much time in between the beta tests and launch, because, and you know, this might be a scale thing, right? But there were so many people beta testing, reporting bugs, and doing surveys and things like that, that it's just so much data. It's so much data and so much game dev that you have to develop, or you have to devote to utilizing after the test is over. So the window opens and you just gather data, right? The window closes and you go back into, you go into like the sorting phase, and then you go into the understanding phase, and then you go into the action phase. And for Zenless Zone Zero, that took a full year before the second beta. And Simon's mentioning like, hey, we want the beta to include all these different things. We want it to have 100 characters. We want all this stuff. And what's hindering our ability to showcase a beta is our assets. It's like, okay, well, just don't let us get to that point. Let us experience the beginning part of the game. Let us experience the first campaign chapter. Let us experience. Don't give us a chance to summon characters. Give us a set number of characters. See how we like building characters. See how certain aspects of the game are and how they work. See if they do work. And like quarantine us, and don't have it be public facing. Closed beta tests are pretty important because they give you that first, like maybe you give it to 1,000 people, let's say. It gives you that time to gather data while the game still doesn't look the way that you want to present it to the masses. And you have their beta testers sign an NDA. They can't stream it. You give them, they talk about it a little bit later in this podcast, but you give them a unique account so that if anything gets leaked, you know who did it. which is super interesting, and I'll touch on it later. But there are ways to go about this that I think it could smooth the gap between nobody playing the game and everybody playing the game, so that when everyone gets access to the game, it's not a bumpy road and you don't lose people. And setting these grand ideas of what a beta should be, like we should have 100 characters in the game. We should be able to play the entire game. But then you only give us a week to do it. It's like, okay, well we can't get to end game in a week. You know, the stages of beta should be almost designed, but you want a little bit of free flowing. Yeah, I guess that's my thought on that. Okay. Does feedback matter? Yeah. I don't know. Do they ask that?
Did you feel like the sort of feedback you were given was heard and implemented?
Oh, heard. Sure. So, Hoyo again does a super good job at this. In Star Rail and Zenless, I feel like the things that I did feedback-wise, not necessarily bug-wise, feedback-wise was listened to. And I could see in like the creator discords and like even people making YouTube videos and just like talking about their thoughts. There were sentiments that were shared by me that just got fixed, and they just happened to listen to the community about certain things, and it felt good, especially about like, you know, user experience type things, not necessarily like, oh, I didn't like that this character was so unbalanced or something like that. It was like, you know, I really didn't like that my favorite character died in the beginning, like whatever. More feel good type stuff, and I think that that's super important for like the beginning of a gacha game, especially a game like Raid or Godforge. And they've talked about it a bunch where like they want an option that's like, hey, I know how to play these games, like skip. And I think that'd be like a big one. So clearly feedback is important. You're gathering all this data. You should use it. Not really much to say there besides that. Social playtests and in-person testing. So I don't think I've ever done an in-person test because like I'm not a gigantic content creator, so like I don't get invited to cool things like that. But I maybe played like demos at a convention or something like that. I think I played the demo for Dante's Inferno. But like, you know, that's a demo, like whatever. It doesn't matter. Like they're not gathering my experience from that. They're just trying to sell their game. In-person stuff, like that's cool. Especially if you make it like a big thing, like a community thing, like, hey, we've got these content creators coming out, like they're making videos and they're hanging out and having lunch, and you know, you make it like a vlog type thing. Like that could be fun. Not necessarily like that important to be like over their shoulder. Strategy and card game influence. So I just before the stream was thinking about Genius Invocation TCG, which is a trading card game. So a part that got edited out of this video was me talking about how in Zenless there are arcade games that they've just added to the gacha game for like some reason. And they're like mini things like their version of Snake or like a little racing game. You know, it's like an arcade game that you would see in arcade, but it's in the video game. And I was thinking like, oh, Godforge could do that. They could make like a mini, you know, 16-bit, 32-bit, like Golden Axe clone and just like put it in the game. They could do a card game because they talk a lot about Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone. They could do like an in-game card game. It could be fun. Like kind of like Gwent, I guess, in The Witcher. There was another thing that I wanted to talk about. When I was beta testing there was a, I can talk about this now because it's been years. There was a game that was very similar to Path of Exile and Diablo, but it was centered around the Magic the Gathering IP. Didn't get very far. Closed beta was the last. It got scrapped. But the game was just like plastered with like my name and my account ID, just like repeating over and over and over across the whole screen, but like at like 5% opacity. So like you could still see the game, but you could still see my name there. So in case it got leaked, everybody had a unique code. You could tell exactly whose footage it was. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, even if you just give everybody a unique code or something like that, like for closed beta testing, especially in a quarantined aspect of the game, hey, test this function, break it, build some characters, theory craft some masteries or something like that. Do whatever you can, but having it unique to that person because you only have like 500 people or 1,000 people in the beta. That I think is like super important, but it doesn't seem like they're going to go that way. So I don't know. But I think that's it. They just go into like personal stuff, heroes and wish list. It wouldn't be a Godforge video if I didn't mention Wukong. If I have to sign an NDA at some point, and Wukong is in the beta, and I'm not allowed to talk about it, I might go to jail. I might risk it. I'm kidding. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. No more to talk about Godforge this week. Unfortunately, I have to edit this because the first 15 minutes of the video, I watched the wrong Godforge video, and I was like, I think I've seen this before. And then Simon said, like, late, at the end of this year, early next year, we're gonna do this thing. And then I realized the video came out in like December. I was like, I'm watching the wrong video. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Like and subscribe if you would. Check out the links in the description for my promo codes and things like that. I appreciate you for watching this far. If you've made it this far, have a good night. I'll see you next time. Bye.